All right, guys, welcome back to the Sex and Bacon podcast. On today's episode, we have with us the lovely Mizz.Honey Temper, and today we are going to get into all things FetDungeon, what it is, how you got started, and dig into the details of it. So, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been pretty excited to be a part of the show. I've actually watched quite a few of your shows, so I'm glad to be having this conversation.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm excited. I've been looking forward to it because I haven't really had any of these kind of conversations. We've dabbled in a little things, kind of fetish BDSM, but lightly touching on the tip of 5% of just our thoughts and stuff. So to talk to somebody who actually, is a professional and somebody in that life and everything, I think will be a really fascinating conversation to have and to share with everybody. So do you mind kind of just telling me, I guess, a little bit of background history, how you got started with it, and kind of really what it is?
Right. So I guess background on how I got into the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that would have started when I was in my early 20s. When I started working in the bar industry, I kind of quickly realized that there are some girls that make good money, and then there's other women that are making real boss lady money. And
Mm-hmm.
it means like Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, they could be walking away with enough to pay for more than their rent, just simply in the cash tips that they were making. And so that was actually kind of what got me a little bit more interested in the lifestyle. I kind of quickly learned and understood by seeing other women that I was kind of like trying to emulate and looking up to, that they were kind of playing almost an aspect of role play. And so the people or the men or anybody that was coming particularly to see these particular girls that were working in the bar industry, primarily in the bar industry, from what I was learning, was kind of like you treat them mean to keep them keen. So that was kind
Okay.
of an eye-opening aspect for me. But one of the
Mm-hmm.
girls that kind of took me under her wing told me that, not every man that comes in to tip you has the assumption that they're going to take you home. Some of them actually really just want to know that you're doing well in life. They know that their money is better spent with you. They want your ambitions and your aspirations to get
Mm-hmm.
ahead and to go forward. Or they may just actually want to give you the money because they want you to call them a creep. So it got me really interested in understanding the psyche of sexuality. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of brought me into the aspects of dominance and control and learning a little bit more about how that applied to me and what I felt was sexy and was enduring. And it took me on the journey of becoming a femdom. So in the beginning, it wasn't on a professional basis. It was really just a part of my own personal sexual discovery.
Mm-hmm.
But with time, it kind of developed into more of a professional dynamic, and now into an epic kind of community response, which is something that I'm really grateful for.
Okay, so when you're talking about bar industry, you're just talking straight up regular bars, not lifestyle clubs. You're just talking your everyday
Yeah,
place that
like
men and women would go to drink. Okay.
yeah, just normal nightclubs. Like I was actually just a beer tub girl.
Okay.
Just like
Yeah.
someone that hangs out in front of a big beer tub and is just serving everybody and anybody. But I quickly learned that there are certain people that are coming into any nightlife aspects, whether it's a
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle club, swingers bars, or just normal nightlife. And they're looking for some form of a sexual encounter or experience. So that doesn't necessarily mean having sex, but it could just be a slight glance of the eye, something that turns them on, something that's really
Mm-hmm.
arousing. And people are really engaging in that when they're going out. That's kind of why you're there, is to have fun and to let your hair down a little bit, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I get that. I mean, grew up working in bar industries and stuff too, and guys come in, I remember the game of it. Um, for everybody listening, can you explain what is a femdom? What does that actually mean by definition?
Well, that's a really good question. And I think for many femdoms, that can mean an array of different things. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
as a femdom, I'm primarily invested into the fetish of financial domination. So for me as a femdom, I'm not having actual full service encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes a good majority of my interactions are just online. Most of the time, I'm fully clothed and I'm just more or less speaking like we are right now. So
Mm-hmm.
it can mean a lot of different aspects. Femdoms could be, they could be pegging their submissives. There could be everything going all the way up from shibari and rope play to, dominance and submission to just plain acts of sadism and masochism. So
Okay.
there is a whole realm and kind of a rainbow spectrum of what that can mean. And it's really up to the individual person that's identifying as the femdom on what that means for them. So for
Okay.
me, it's more aspects of discipline, dominance, and submission. And I'm a little bit of a sadist. So that kind of means that I don't mind being the enforcer or administer for
Mm-hmm.
punishments.
Okay. Okay, so this is like a legit business like that women are in and men are paying them to be this, I guess, the dominant woman or the in whatever aspect like they're paying somebody to do. Like it's like this is how women are making a living off of
Absolutely.
it.
I mean, this has probably been the most empowering aspect of my adult life is the fact that I have complete autonomous control. Um, if I want to do nothing but sell pictures of my feet and
Mm-hmm.
mail somebody my actual toenail clippings and never show my face on camera, I could literally do that and there's not really a time shelf on it. The thing about fetish and kink is that you really grow with the fetishes and the kinks. So, unlike, for instance, other aspects of sex work where maybe if
Mm-hmm.
you're stripping, you have a very small shelf life. You have to stay a certain size. To be able to fit into a lot of the outfits, and you have to be really physically able to perform on a regular basis. Whereas what I'm doing is more delving deeper into like your psyche and
Okay.
challenging aspects of your sexuality, helping you to find new limits and safely establishing boundaries. And so
Okay.
some people actually come to see me who've never had a sexual encounter in real life. And they're really looking for aspects to help them to gain confidence in the real world. I've had people come to see me because they want to grow in personal aspects, maybe when it comes to losing weight and
Mm-hmm.
loving themselves. And I've also had women come to see me just to learn kind of what we're doing in the aspect of just empowering themselves. And even if
Mm-hmm.
they're in a relationship and not doing this professionally, just learning how to be a little bit more assertive about how to be pleased, what pleases them, what makes them happy, and things they can do to really work on bonding and establishing stronger trust.
Oh wow. Okay, so I didn't even realize that's a thing that you guys can actually like women. Like that's crazy. So is this like when you say they come to see you, is this like you have like a storefront essentially people can come in and see you, or is this is just strictly like virtual and online?
Yeah, so I primarily my financial domination experience would be that I would kind of engage with people online, go through some safe and consent vetting if I was ever going to, like, say, for instance, meet
Mm-hmm.
someone for a live ATM drop, which is essentially where you have a submissive that wants to pretend to be your open bank machine and they meet you at a random location in the city that you're shopping and they give you their money. So, in order to engage in something like that, I really am a lot more cautious about like vetting and just
Mm-hmm.
really taking safety into consideration. That's not something I would do with a random stranger that joins my website and is like, hey, I want to do this live ATM thing. That's something that really has to be established with trust over time.
Okay.
Most of the submissives that I do work with, I've had with me since I was in my early 20s, so it's been well over 15 years, and I don't foresee letting them go anytime in the future.
Okay, wow. So financial domination, like just because I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are like, well, what the fuck is financial domination? Like you basically just tell these guys, give me your money and then they do, or like what
Yeah.
is like the science to that?
So again, financial domination, there is kind of an array of a spectrum for how men like to financially submit to women. But the
Mm-hmm.
real ultimate fetish is that the submissive wants to submit financially to you. And when you think about the aspect of money and control, it's a man's world. I mean, the
Right.
industry, the working industry, period, is a man's world. But money is better spent in women's hands. And I truly believe that more women that work in, in every aspect of industry, the better and more compassionate as humans that we're really going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I am a true feminist 100% in the sense when it comes to opportunities and growth and advancement. So for me, the financial submissives or pay
Mm-hmm.
piggies typically like to be humiliated or degraded. They like to be told that their money is going to be spent for material, innate objects, and that they're going to have to work overtime just for you to go on a holiday or to buy a $300 bottle of
Mm-hmm.
wine. And the fetish is really more the aspect that they are now not just working for themselves, but what they're doing is selflessly for you and to keep you happy in every sense of the means. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, it's really a different aspect of a lifestyle. I mean, this isn't what I would do with my own personal money, but will I take a submissive's money and buy,
Mm-hmm.
cryptocurrency? Will I treat myself to a spa day with my girlfriends and include them on someone else's dime? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because they believe I'm worth it. It allows me to have an immense amount of self-love for what I'm worth, and it
Yeah.
allows me to appreciate what people want me to enjoy. And so that's really appealing to a lot of women. And I think that's why
Yeah.
I
Like,
had
can
to
I sign
create my
up for this,
website.
please? Yeah. Like, do you mentor and coach women on how to do this? Like,
I
hello,
do.
what
I
girl
have a
doesn't want
Facebook group,
that?
right? Like I have a Facebook group. I have a fetish group. I'm pretty involved in like lots of different social media aspects. Ultimately, when COVID happened, a lot of women that I have reached out to and have been connected with over the years kind of were lost, and they were like, what do we do now? And how do we
Mm-hmm.
engage? And how do we meet new people? And how are we going to do this safely? So it went from me just doing something for myself and my own independence and my own opportunities to creating a space, which is how I created FetDungeon, which is more of a community space, and it's primarily there for female sex workers. Not all are financial domination. Some are just
Mm-hmm.
femdoms that are into other aspects of fetish, and others are full service sex workers as well. But to give them a space where there are real people and where they can have open conversations and they can speak to people privately and they can kind of engage in a safe space.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I feel like I need to do this. Now I'm just like, fuck being the sugar baby stuff and like looking for like the dating. Oh, so on that token though, like, do you have like personal relationships? Like, do you find dating challenging based on the fact that you are a femdom, or do you meet men that are accepting of it and okay with it? Because I could see like some guys being like, "Oh, you're taking advantage of another man," and that would like demasculate them, and they wouldn't be okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, these are great questions, and like I'm probably a unique situation, but I am married. I've been married for 12 years, and my husband is not really pretty like not very big in the lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But saying that, I'm bisexual and we're polyamorous, so we do date other people together. The aspect of financial domination has been fantastic when it comes to our relationship and our marriage.
Yeah.
For my husband, he loves the fact that other people want to worship me, that they want to follow me, that they want to like look at my pictures and tell me how beautiful I am. He's really proud of me, and he thinks that it's flattering that, he's with me and that we're life partners in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
He's very supportive in that sense, and I think it's really about open communication. It might be different if I was having sexual encounters with
Right.
the submissives that I was engaging with. But for me personally, that's not what's happening. And a lot of women that are in the aspect of financial domination, I would say that it's typical that there's not actually sexual interactions that are occurring.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that, it really depends on the conversations you're having. Like, for instance, my husband and I have no problem sharing women together, but he's completely straight and he's not submissive to me. So when it comes to aspects of expressing myself, we go to places like, lifestyle clubs and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And that gives me an opportunity to have kind of like voyeurism and exhibitionist playtimes with other partners, and kind of to keep things fun and spicy. So it's been good for us. I would say it's not a good idea to start with secrets. So if it's something that women are looking to get into, that it's not a bad idea to have a conversation with your partner. You might be surprised at how they react. I didn't tell my husband about financial that I was a Findom for
Yeah.
years. It was years before I told him. But when I did
Wow.
tell him, he really was like, "Why wouldn't I care?" Like he's like, "This is great. So other guys are gonna buy you stuff, and that's why you never asked me to buy you stuff." And
Yeah.
so it works. It works good for us. I have wish lists of items that I wouldn't really spend or put money aside materially, but would love to
Mm-hmm.
have. And it's awesome when I get to enjoy those little extra gifts and luxuries. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So do you ever find it very like exhausting? I mean, like I know as a woman just dating in general, like sometimes being on all the time and like even when a guy like sexts you and it's like you're in the middle of cooking supper and you might have a migraine and all of a sudden they're, pouring all these things and you're like, "Oh, blah blah blah," and like sometimes like it like I find it just in general in my like regular life exhausting to at the drop of the hat be in the mood to sex with you, to this and that. So do you ever find it can be kind of draining? Because I would imagine I mean, obviously, if it's your life and your lifestyle, there's multiple men that you have to entertain and engage with on a regular basis to keep them interested, to keep this going as a successful business. So is that hard for you?
It can be. I think it's really important to establish your boundaries and your limits. In the end, I'm the boss.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the one in control, not the submissive who's deciding to submit to me. So
Okay.
if I'm going to be busy between the hours of 9 to 5 and I don't want to be messaged and I don't want to be called, then that's going to be a boundary that's going to be set up and established. And if that boundary is broken, then there may be some punishments that are established, or I may just disconnect altogether. So
Okay.
establishing boundaries and sticking to your guns is really essential in, I think, any line of work, but
Mm-hmm.
especially in aspects where people's emotions and feelings are getting involved. I am by no means anybody's girlfriend. I am in this for financial gain. This is my
Mm-hmm.
profession, and I do this. I consider it as an art form, and I
Mm-hmm.
hope that the people that I'm engaging with are making safe and consensual, positive decisions. But if at any point it feels like somebody is really having some mental health struggles and that they're reaching out to me in ways that I'm not going to be able to help them,
Right.
where they need to seek other professional engagement, then again, I really have to set up boundaries and limits. So it can be emotionally challenging at times. I've
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately had some submissives that I know that have committed suicide. And some people are turning to you because they feel like they're really missing an aspect of their life, or that they aren't sure how to convey to the people around them something that they're really, really
Right.
fascinated by. So, so it can be
Okay.
challenging in that way. And I think that the best thing to do is to just know what you are and aren't okay with. When things start to
Okay.
become draining, you really need to take a step back and kind of evaluate that and really look at what the big picture is and
Right.
the best way to move forward.
Oh, wow. I could imagine that would be hard. I mean, obviously, regardless of the situation, anything like that is really hard on people, right? To deal
Yeah.
with that and to know, especially somebody that you've been in communication with in an intimate and like personal way, and then to see that happen, right? So I guess it's like anything, it can happen kind of anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so let's dive into then FetDungeon.com. So that's your personal website, or that's a website you created for subs and DOMs to be able to come together and find each other.
Yeah, so it was a bit of both. I mean,
Okay.
originally I just created FetDungeon for myself because I make content and it was for my followers to be able to find me and have a
Mm-hmm.
place to buy my content. Because, I'm on OnlyFans and other places like that, but why should they make all of the money, like half the money for my work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really originally developed this website as a way of empowering myself that the content I was making, I was able to make all of the money from my own space.
Okay.
And then what it's turned into now is more of a community base where people can get together, they can read blogs and forums, they can learn about fetishes, they can chat with each other. And so it's really just kind of growing into its own little kinky space.
Oh,
And I've got a
cool.
few thousand people that are on there now, and it's continually growing every day. So it's been really awesome to kind of see women primarily empowering themselves, finding their expressions, learning about aspects of control and how that might fit into their life and their dynamics, and kind
Mm-hmm.
of sharing that with others. So it's a little different than what it was like when I first got into the lifestyle. I would say that when I was, a lot younger, I would ask questions about financial domination and submission, and like I wouldn't really get a lot of answers. I just kind of felt like people in the community wanted you to like figure it out for yourself. And
Right.
that can be very isolating and that can be really challenging, especially if you're in a community that doesn't have broad diversity where you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you can really relate to other people that are like you or look like you. So for me, having FetDungeon is more so that people that are kind of new to the lifestyle, they don't really know what all the different aspects of BDSM are and what turns them on yet, and they want to kind of discover that to just get their feet wet and kind of find a little bit of a community with me.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so
Yeah.
like talking kinks and stuff. So like let's talk about a few kinks and things and fetishes. Like what are some common fetishes that, people are looking for that like normal, not normal, but like other people maybe who aren't as in touch with their sexuality are probably not even aware of that are a thing. Because I mean like there's some pretty extremes out there and like there's like the basics of what people know, probably what they see in porn. And then there's other stuff that people probably don't even realize is a fetish or is a thing that people are searching. So, in your experience, like what are some of these?
So some of the funner fetishes that I've experimented with, and that a lot of the submissives that reach out to me are kind of engaging. Obviously, financial domination right now is probably one of the top three most searched fetishes in the world. So people are really interested in that aspect, and with that comes like aspects of humiliation, CBT or cock and ball torture. This can be anything from, someone giving me $500 to kick them in the balls, to to maybe watching them on video stabbing themselves with like needles in their cock. Like it could literally range from
Wow.
a range of what cock and ball torture could mean for a person. Foot fetishes, boot fetishes, anything to do with the feet. That's also like one of the top five fetishes most commonly asked for or searched.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have fun things like ass fetish. I've been paid to like smash birthday cakes with my ass,
Okay.
which is
That's
totally
fun.
fun. It was so
Yeah.
much fun, but it was also just like a whole different experience. You've got people that are into balloons and like liking the sounds and squeaks of balloons, and kind of going further into that, like ASMR, so like audio sensory
Right.
sounds that can really like turn a person on and be erotic. There are people that like soft, kind of more a softcore nature, so sensual flogging with maybe just something, very light like this, just
Okay.
down the back, not necessarily whipping a person, but just very sensual. Tickle fetishes. I've got a lot of people that organize events, and girls love to be tickled. Like that's like a big one as well. There's really
Wow.
a lot of different aspects. I think one that is really common with males, particularly males that are in control, maybe in their everyday like careers and
Mm-hmm.
work life, really want to submit and like give their full selves and completely trust
Mm-hmm.
a dominant person, a dominant woman particularly. So having things like collars and leashes available to be able to work on those aspects can be really fun and really erotic for a lot of couples. That's why a lot of couples are on my website, is just to kind of learn about those aspects as well.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have even thought of. The cock and ball torture one though, do you think that some of these extremes for kinks and fetishes comes from a place of people being desensitized to everyday, regular kind of like sex and touch and stuff, or do you think it kind of goes beyond that?
I honestly wouldn't want to try to assume like what it is for
Mm-hmm.
any kind of individual person. I really try not to kind of go in that direction, but I would say that there is a lot of really interesting psychological aspects to certain fetishes. For instance, people that like to be cuckolded. Do you know what cuckolding is?
Oh, I've heard that word so many times. I swear I've even used it in sentences, but like I can't even at the top like think of it right now. I don't know. No.
So, cuckolding is kind of when you have one partner that is willing to allow another partner to sleep with someone else that they believe is more attractive than they are, more able-bodied to please, for instance, the other partner and things of that aspect. Sometimes they'll be forced to sit in a corner and actually watch their partner sleep with the more sexy, attractive bull,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be cuckolded. They'll be refrained from being able to engage. They're relegated to just having to watch. Now, listening to that aspect, people would say, why would anybody do that? But in fact, I've had loads of couples who, for instance, somebody who's suffering from erectile dysfunction, but very much so loves the aspect of their wife being a beautiful, sexual, loving being,
Mm-hmm.
wanting them to still engage and enjoy sexual encounters and wanting to be a part of those sexual encounters, looking at aspects of cuckolding, helping them find a prime candidate to be able to bang for their one ticketed night of fun, and for their husband or
Oh.
partner to be able to watch and engage and to still actually actively be a part of that experience. Now, psychologically, maybe he feels that he no longer can please her anymore. So,
Right.
allowing someone else to do that might be a new way for them to be stimulated or even
Mm-hmm.
aroused by that aspect. And then maybe, who knows, maybe something else can happen that wasn't expected. So, it's not always about the fetish. Sometimes it's about the psychological aspect of where that fetish can take you. A lot of submissives refer to this as called subspace, which is basically where your mind goes into this kind of euphoric, distant, almost out of your body arousal,
Okay.
just from the experience, right? The experience at hand. And you do get a lot of masochistic submissives who find subspace, which is almost typically through acts of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And this could be, for instance, canes, paddles, good firm spankings with your hand. But it could really help to put sometimes that submissive into a mental place of vulnerability that allows them to open up emotionally in ways that they're not otherwise able to let go and to do.
Okay. See, and it's like as you explain it, like on the side of I guess like a man wanting to see his woman, I'm like, oh, okay, like I get that that would be hot, but I think of like the other way around. I'm like, oh my God, I just feel like all the triggers and the insecurities that like that would bring up for me, like picking somebody hotter, watching them enjoy somebody hotter, right? Like I guess you really have to be in a very trusting um relationship, like knowing when you're going down the road with some of these kinks and these fetishes that you guys are exploring it together in a safe way. I guess no different than, say, polyamory, swinging. I mean, the communication and the ability to be open with one another as to if it's working, what it's bringing up, and to work through those things together really has to be there, for
Yes.
that to work,
It
right?
really does. I really think that this is kind of what happens when, for instance, you hear about like boyfriends or husbands reaching out to someone professional like myself instead of
Mm-hmm.
having a conversation with their, with their significant other, is mainly down to the comfort that they have when they're expressing themselves and the reactions that they're receiving. So, um, you know, being open-minded can be challenging sometimes when you
Mm-hmm.
don't know what you're going to hear and you don't know yourself whether that is going to interfere with your own personal belief system or what you think is sexual or different aspects of things, but that's okay. It's okay to
Mm-hmm.
have those conversations and say, hey, that's not really my kink, but I hope that this journey for you, is really awesome and that it helps you and that it's a
Yeah.
great experience for you. So I do think having trust is the biggest. Before you can communicate, you must trust each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in order to trust each other, there has to be, a kind of a list of things that sometimes need to happen for that trust to be established. Everybody has a different roadmap to the
Mm-hmm.
best way to establish trust. But I think that establishing limits and boundaries and then sticking to those really does help. And aftercare, after having a scene or going through a really intense kind of BDSM experience, making sure that it's not just left at that and that you're
Mm-hmm.
really taking care of each other. So
Okay.
I think as a dominant, you're really responsible in ensuring not just the person's safety, but their mental well being and how they're taking this on board afterwards. I'm not just beating someone with a paddle so that I can just beat them and they can just be
Mm-hmm.
hurt. Like, that's not why we're here, right? And
Yeah.
it takes a lot of trust to be able to get to a point where we're going to discuss having a scene where I'm going to bend you over my lap and I'm going to paddle your ass until it's red. We're
Yeah.
not just going to do that. We're going to have conversations. There's going to be safety words, there's going to be limits. And after the fact, there's going to be discussions about, keeping you hydrated, asking how you're feeling emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
checking in with you afterwards. So I think there's a little bit of responsibility when you're getting into a dominant role, to be sure that you're not just looking at this as an aspect of a way to get out abuse, and that you're actually doing this, for the right reasons.
Right.
When I'm establishing punishments, as an example, on a submissive, I have, I have a submissive right now that is looking to lose a lot of weight. And so there is a check in process. And when this particular submissive cheats or has a cupcake or does something, they're punished for that. They're not just punished and left with that. They're told why they're punished. They're asked if they
Mm-hmm.
understand what's going to happen if they do this again. And we go over the terms of discipline that will continue if they continue to be disobedient towards my rule and order. So there is aspects of things that can help a person with their own
Mm-hmm.
personal growth. And as long as you're there for the right reasons, it can be a really, really fun sexual journey.
Okay. That's cool. I mean, the way that you describe like a lot of those things, I mean, it does sound nice, right? And I like how you use the word aftercare. I've heard that come up so many more times now in the last year. And I think even just in personal relationships and personal sexual encounters, I mean, that is something people don't really think about. But I mean, it is one of those things as a woman. I mean, if you have, casual sex with a man and like right afterwards, it's like they're getting up, they're dressed and they're bolting and, there isn't that cuddling and that aspect of like connection. It really does leave you feeling used and it leaves a weird
Yeah.
feeling where it's like, oh, what did I do wrong? Because we just had this intimate experience together where, I enjoyed you and you appeared to be enjoying me, but then like now that it's ended, you're walking away from me as if like you don't like me and you didn't enjoy everything. So I get the psychology behind it, and I do think it's important in every sexual encounter to feel like both people have that level of, being taken care of and all of that stuff, right? Um,
Yeah, and I mean that it really does kind of go coexist with just like normal
mhm.
monogamous relationships because even normal, whatever that is,
Yeah.
relationships, you have kinky sex or rough sex, and exactly like you said, you don't want to be left afterwards feeling one person feeling used or emotionally
Mhm.
strung from the situation than
Yeah.
the other. And I would say that people that are interested in learning about the lifestyle are a little bit more attentive to how the other person they're engaging with is feeling, especially when you're doing online kind of like sex work, which is a
Mhm.
good majority of what I'm doing. Now, most of the people that are giving me money, helping my life to be better, that I'm humiliating or degrading, I've never met them in person before, right? This has all been established trust from just like videos and calling and
Mhm.
surveys and chatting and doing those kind of things. So it's really, really important to ask the right questions, to make sure that you're trying to find the correct answers. And what I mean by that is just like asking questions about why they're into the fetishes that they're
Mhm.
into. Really try to get the roadmap for what it is for them, that's turning them on, and whether or not that fits in with what you are open to doing, right? Again, being fully in control gives me the ability to decide, do I want to show you a picture of my feet? Yes, but I'm not showing you my toes, just
Mhm.
my heels. If you
Yeah.
want to see my toes, you'll have to wait till Friday.
Yeah. Okay.
But
So
establishing
there's
rules kind of sometimes
yeah.
makes you a little bit more appealing and sought after in this kind of lifestyle. Really sticking to what your own personal values are and not changing or wavering them for a submissive will really make you stand out a little bit more in the professional scene, in my opinion, I think, than kind of conforming. Speak
Okay.
to your own
Which I
drum.
think typically women tend to do because they think like, oh, if I don't do what he wants me to do right now, he's going to leave or he won't want me, right? And so we have that fear based around it with even relationships in general. And then I could see like, especially when it's like you think like you're relying on like the financial aspect of it in like a work situation. It's like, oh, I better do what he wants. So like he wants to pay me, right? So,
Right. But then you do
but
that and they run because
yeah,
that's not what the fetish is, right? So
yeah.
I think everybody's seen kind of online, especially on social media, when people put like, oh, fake doms or fin doms, and there's kind of like a lot of kink shaming towards the industry. But I really think that this is kind of the way the world is going, is that
Mm-hmm.
if women particularly can be in control of their own finances, can make their own content according to how they want, to sell it under
Mm-hmm.
their own measures and their own pretenses, why wouldn't we? I
Yeah.
mean, it's empowering to know that you can literally be whatever you want, in this lifestyle, from how you want to express yourself to how you want to dress to the attitude that you might have. You leave who you are in your everyday life behind. And when you step inside your little dark angel there, you can be this whole new,
Mm-hmm.
confident and assertive person. And so I think that that's really what's awesome about kind of the lifestyle is that if you've dated loads of, kind of pieces of shit, and then you get
Mm-hmm.
into aspects of domination where guys want to give you everything and treat you good, and they don't care if you're married or not. They just want to give
Yeah.
you their money and hope you have a great life. It might change your opinion about men in general as well.
Okay.
So, there can be a lot of different aspects that can be beneficial, not just the financial gain that comes
Right.
from it. But, I've really met some amazing people who want nothing more than the best for me and for females in general. And I think that's amazing, right? And I don't
Yeah.
know if I would have been open to those kind of conversations or interactions before. But I've certainly found aspects of even self-love that I didn't think that I would have ever found had I not kind of gotten into this aspect of the lifestyle.
Right. No, for sure. Right. It is unique. Um, and I mean, like, I think it's kind of like anything. I find there's still so much, stigma and judgment around everything and anything that is taboo, but more so in the sense of things that we don't understand. Right.
Right.
Like, and I think it's more fear-based insecurities within ourselves as to why men or women judge it. They automatically assume the worst of it. They think that it means this versus like what it actually means. So I think that's the problem is there's such a lack of understanding and willing to for men and women like to be willing to be open to understanding it, learning about it, educating themselves on some of these things to kind of really remove that stigma and that judgment of okay, like I can kind of get that or okay, you know what, I'm glad that that works for you. And I think just
Yeah.
sexuality in itself is such a misunderstood thing within ourselves, and that's how people were raised, and like that's the world that we live in, unfortunately, that these things really are looked at as far more taboo than they probably really should be or need to be, right?
Right.
um
And I mean, there's so many aspects, especially for, say for instance, you're in a marriage, you've got kids. Maybe it's been a long time since you've had time to yourself to be able to do your hair and
mhm.
do your makeup. And it's just something as simple as that that makes you feel good inside afterwards. But you
Mhm.
imagine if you had a conversation with your husband about saying, look, I really want to learn about aspects of like dominating you.
Mhm.
And maybe that just means like riding him, and it doesn't have to mean anything like crazy sexually. But you could be sexting him and saying, well, what you're going to do is watch the kids so I can do my hair and makeup. And maybe he'll
Mhm.
love that. Maybe he actually loves the idea that you're going to take some time for yourself and that he can be a part of that in a way that he's not been
Right.
told to do it before. So when you think of aspects of being a femdom and lifestyle, it doesn't just have to be these like one-on-one serious kind of scenes and encounters. It can really open those opportunities up for you and your partner or partners to look at
Mhm.
aspects of things that you can do that are submissive kind of uh, gestures that can help to ease someone's day and to make their day
Mhm.
a little bit better.
No, for sure, absolutely, I could see that. Yeah, I like that. Um, okay, so a fun side of it. What is the craziest thing you have been asked to do that either one, you did do, or two, it was almost too crazy for you and you're like, I'm gonna have to pass on that?
Well, I've had a few that I haven't done yet, but maybe will be open to doing, and I've had quite a few funny questions. So one thing that I have been asked to do is to have some photos in a bathtub of beans, baked beans. Now that's a
Okay.
little bit out there. The concern I have is I don't want to stink of baked beans, and I can't imagine where that can all get if you sit in a tub of it. But I'm kind of compelled to see how much money it would cost to fill a hot tub full of baked beans.
Yeah, that's
And
where my mind went. How expensive is this to fill a bathtub full of baked beans?
so I'm not saying it won't happen, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
um,
Okay.
I do have other ones where I've had a few people that want it to be my human furniture. So for a video event that I was doing, I just had a person that was my coffee table, where they just literally were there for everyone to put their drinks on their back and to rest, the ashtray there. I had another person that was my human lamp. So we just put a lampshade on their head and they literally just sat there with a light in their mouth. And whenever we wanted the light off, someone would come and take the light out of their mouth. And we had loads of fun with that. Human furniture aspects are really, really fun.
Okay.
But they're different. They're different for sure. A latex fetish is something that I find really sexy, but so expensive. But having latex parties can be a lot of fun as well. And one of the more interesting ones that someone's asked me to do recently is aspects of mummification.
Oh, like actually like the mummy Halloween
Like
kind of
wrapping you
thing.
up like a mummy, but like really with like tight industrial kind of like saran wrap. Obviously, there's a lot of safety and precautions that you're putting into aspects of play like this. But it's very constricting, and if you're into bondage or rope play, then
Right.
this is kind of like the next step for like encasement and things like that.
Okay.
And then aspects of breath play, which are things that I don't really do with partners, but something that can be pretty exciting for a lot of people,
Breath play.
like
So like
choking.
breathing. Oh, okay, okay.
Choking, or
Okay.
possibly wearing like restrictive apparatus on your face, like a face mask
Right.
or a hood, something that's going to maybe stop you from being able to breathe out your nose. You can only breathe from your mouth, or vice versa. Um, it definitely
Okay.
heightens certain senses, getting
Right.
into aspects of breath play, but you need to be extremely safe. And again, trust the person that you're playing with.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. There's a lot of stuff. The beans one, like I need to know if you ever do that and I need to know how expensive that was to fill that tub.
Oh,
That's
yeah, we would. I think at one point we estimated that it was going to be about 260 of those big, like 4 liters of baked beans to fill
yeah.
this hot tub. So it would be a lot of money, and I'm definitely
Jeez.
not going to pay to do it. But if someone really wants me to take a bath in baked beans, then we'll see what happens.
That's crazy. So, is there a lot of food related ones? Like, I feel like food porn is like a whole thing. And, like, aside from the cake, the one you did with your ass, like, I feel like there's a lot of stuff, like, people really like to see some stuff happen with, like, food.
Yeah, there is quite a bit of aspects with like food play. Like, I mean, I've definitely, um, well, touching into aspects of like sissification, or feminizing a masculine person,
Mm-hmm.
to and then making them lick a lollipop or suck or eat a banana or do something like that, can be pretty funny and entertaining. And so there are definitely lots of aspects of things that people are
Mm-hmm.
doing with food play, in kink, for sure.
Okay. That's crazy. I love it. I love the stories, I think, more than anything. It's just like I find it fascinating to know what people are doing, what they're into. Like, how weird are you getting in the bedroom? Like, and why? And like that's the aspect of I think like all of these things that I just find fascinating, but in like a good way, not in like a judgy way, but just in a way where it's like I think that's like kind of cool and like, oh, so like it created those kind of feelings and and I think it's because I mean, at the end of the day, being in any type of long-term relationship or even as a single person, I mean, sex can get a little routine. Sex can be very dry at times. Sometimes it's like you need extra things to be mentally stimulated. You need something else that you're like, oh, wait, this is creating different types of pleasure that I haven't experienced before. And, if you have a healthy sex life and you and your partner, fucking 4 times a week and you're doing that for 10 years, like, at some point, like, you need a little something. Or as a man who's single and you spend most of your life jerking off, like, sometimes it gets a little lonely and you need a little something to kind of like you can only watch so much porn. You can only, play with the same, I don't know, pocket pussy or fuck doll so many times before it's like you do search out other things to be like, okay, well, what about this? You know? But
Absolutely. And especially for men that are working like out of town in remote areas for like weeks
mm,
and weeks at a time where they maybe don't get to see their family or they're single and they don't even get to engage or have any involvement really in their
mm-hmm.
community. And they really need to kind of look within themselves and be like, what turns me on and what can I do to get kind of through these moments. And so I also do get quite a few men that will send me, like, pay me money to send me videos of things that they want to do to themselves. And so things that maybe they're afraid to show their girlfriend or their wives or
Mm-hmm.
somebody that they're connected with. And, that might be up to like fisting their own ass. Like it could be anything, right? But you don't know um, really how much that means to a person to be able to kind of show a part of themselves that they don't feel open to showing
Right.
to anybody else. So there is, I think, a lot of people that are out there, particularly single people, that are afraid of like being judged and afraid of having those
Mm-hmm.
initial conversations when you first meet somebody that you're really connecting with. And so
Yeah.
they maybe look into these online aspects or these personal encounters where they can really distance it from their actual rest of their lives. And so I do think that there's a lot of different reasons why people may come to look for either a digital professional or someone
Mm-hmm.
in person. But in the end, it's kind of all about those moments of just figuring out, not being into the same old, and things that
Yeah.
constantly are keeping you excited and stimulated.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree, right? And I think we should be curious about our sexuality and we should be curious about like those things and we should be able to feel like it's healthy stimulation, without the judgment and the fear and stuff. But I mean, it's a tricky conversation to navigate, and I think that's where people struggle still to this days with the communication of it, right?
Yeah,
But hopefully the more conversations like these and the more that people are putting out there, hopefully it helps people just realize that, like, one, they're not freaks, they're not weirdos, they're not alone, everybody has fantasies, everybody has desires, and that there is places that they can go to, help have somebody help them fulfill those things in a safe way, right? So, and that's what's
absolutely.
important. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest kind of take home from that is just like,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to be into so many different aspects in all different fetishes. There may be a whole
Mm-hmm.
array of aspects about that fetish that they could like discover and learn about. So just being open and honest with yourself that it's okay to explore these aspects of
Yeah.
things that may be considered taboo, and it's okay to let go of what the
Yeah.
stigmas around the world are around you, and to just open yourself to a little bit of self-love and discovery, and that can go a long way, just in general in your life, in your everyday life. It's not just what may please you sexually. I mean, if we think about how many women are lying and have never actually had a
Mm-hmm.
proper orgasm, then it lets you know right there that we need to stop with just all of the stigmas, and we just need to be able to love ourselves a little bit, enough to explore what's really kind of making you tick inside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So well said. And it's so true, right? Yeah. No, I love that. Awesome. Honestly, thank you so much for coming on and being vulnerable and open to sharing like the lifestyle and, your personal journey with it and just the community. I think it's really cool to learn these things. So, for everybody listening though, where can they find you if they want to search you out, whether it's couples, males, females, what is the best place to learn about you and what you do?
Yeah, so well, thank you so much for having me on the show, and hopefully we can, do something like this again where we can talk more about like toys and
Yeah,
different aspects.
totally.
It was so great to be on the show today. People can typically find me mainly on FetDungeon.com
Okay.
because I am running the site there. That is the easiest place to find me. But I'm also going to be at several community events across Canada throughout the spring here and into the summer. So tomorrow I'll be in Calgary. And after the Valentine's Day weekend here, you'll be able to find me at the Taboo sex shows, both in Regina and at Red Deer.
Okay. Okay. So what's the dates for the Red Deer one for anybody local that's, within the Edmonton area? What's the dates for that one coming up?
Yeah, so Red Deer is going to be March 24th to March 26th.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, like I just love these conversations and I love learning new and different things that are out there for people to explore and hopefully everybody can learn something from this and maybe they've thought of a new fetish or something from what you've said that they're kind of into and they're going to check out. So,
Thanks. And I'm really appreciative that you were able to have someone like me as sex worker on the show
mhm.
and have a real candid conversation
Yeah.
because there are so many women that are doing this and empowering themselves for their own individual reasons
Mhm.
and really making a solid living at this. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
really, really happy that people are having these open conversations. And I hope that it empowers some women out there that are thinking that maybe they can do something like this to really do their research and find the empowerment that they need to go forward.
Absolutely. I mean, and it really is one of those things. I mean, it's a safe way to make a living where you're not relying on somebody else, you're not hurting anybody. And I mean, it's still a business. It's like any other business, it's a business. It's transactional. Both parties are getting what they want out of it. There is no harm, no foul, you know? We
That's
all need to
right.
make a living, we all need to pay our bills.
And
So,
we're all consenting adults. And I mean, if they
totally.
want their money to be spent better in my hands, why not let them?
Exactly. And share some of that over here with me. So,
Yeah, we need to go out for a drink.
we do. We'll talk. Absolutely. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening.
Thanks so much.